Happy Friday, Savannah. It's Jodi Clark with Real to One Group Inclusion, and Jules and I have tried this a couple times live, and the Facebook gremlins have decided we can't do that way. So we're going to drop back and punt and do it this way. But it's still going to have the same great nuggets of love and light from Jules. So I'm excited about that. And again, Jules, thank you so much for doing this with me today. As we kind of were touching on earlier, we all know you as a celebrity makeup artist. You've made Savannah a more beautiful place while you were here with your work in film and television, runway, magazines. But somewhere along the line, you got a little tug and you started paying attention to that tug, and your life became an exercise in surrender. So again, just kind of share with us what that looked like. What brought you to where you are now?
Jodi, I love that you called it a tug, because that's exactly what it felt like. I remember that you just brought me back to that moment of that feeling, and it felt like I was being led, like pulled by my heart. And I totally forgot this until you just said that. I felt like I was being led, and all I could do was follow it. Like there was almost no choice about it. That's how strong it was. And so it led me to the place of deciding to look at the life that I had built, the machine that I had created, if you will. And I didn't really want that anymore. I wanted to have more freedom. I wanted to have the flexibility to experiment with the idea of surrendering. I wanted to have more freedom and allowing the power to come through me and do what I felt I was meant to do. And I almost felt like I needed to start over in order to get there. Which it's interesting. I'm reflecting back at where we are right now in our globe, in our world, and how we all are kind of collectively, we are collectively getting that reset that I felt that I had to give myself back, those few years ago. And so that's really interesting. I hadn't thought about it from that perspective. So yeah, the surrender experiment, definitely.
Well, not only the surrender, it was a huge leap of faith because by all accounts, I mean, you were at the height of your success. I mean, everybody knew who you were. Everybody knew your work. And to be able to just kind of walk off I'll call it into the light, because it certainly wasn't into the darkness, but to just walk off in that direction, that was a huge leap of faith.
Yeah, it absolutely was a leap of faith. And it felt like that, but it was so funny how calm and comfortable I felt in it. When I thought about not listening to it, that's when I would feel anxiety. When I would feel like, when I would start to think about what other people were going to think about me or say about me, or think, oh, well, maybe she wasn't successful and that's why she had to leave. And it was more of like, I again, just had to try. I had to give this thing a shot, because the call wasn't getting any quieter. It just kept getting louder and stronger, to the point where I realized that I couldn't unring the truth bell that was, you got to start moving out on faith, sister. Like, this is where we are. And I realized when my husband was in alignment with that. And I remember one argument where we were real heated, and he was like, I think we should shut down the studio, and we should sell everything, and we should follow that. I was like, what are you talking about? What? And he's like, and I think we should just like go travel and live in a camper. And I was like, what? So, it was like, I wasn't ready to hear that at that point. And it sounded crazy, but then it rang my truth bell, because I knew inside that that actually did sound really good, because we were in the lifestyle at that point that I think a lot of people can identify with, where we were having to work so hard to pay for all this stuff. And when we realized because everybody thought I was rich, which was really funny. I was like, I am not rich. I have to work so much just to be able to, pay my bills kind of thing. And so,
Right.
and I just got tired of that. And I wanted to live from a heart-centered space of making decisions based on what felt right, not what others expected me to do. And so that's what happened. And it brought me to, a rural farm community called Hopeful in Georgia, which, I mean, like, how perfect is that, Jodi? Like, right? It's so crazy.
Perfect. It is. I remember when you sold the house here and loaded the family up in an Airstream and just started, following your heart. And fast forward, you found your hopeful place, which is perfect, Well, I've been such a beneficiary of your love and your light, and you always seem to know the perfect time to reach out to me. And sometimes when I reach out to you, it seems like you were just thinking about me, maybe hours before.
Yep.
But you've always helped me kind of recenter myself when I go off on what you refer to as my monkey brain. Kind of help me, reevaluate. And I think I asked you this in the live video, but I just feel like it looks like it comes so natural to you. I mean, are you just always filled with this light, or do you work at it? Is it something that anybody can do?
The monkey brain is funny. I love thinking of it like that, because then it can make you laugh, which brings joy, instead of you wanting to beat yourself up about it. So that's actually the monks. The monks call it the monkey brain. And so I've adopted that. And it's just to prove that, like, if you don't master your mind, then it will rule you. And so it comes through a lot of practice. I call it building your spiritual muscles. And so every moment that you work on it, and every moment that you choose again to choose something positive, or choose to focus on faith over fear, or you choose to give grace instead of hanging on to judgments or unforgiveness, all of those things add up to a huge compound effect, which shows up of you having more peace, you being able to not spiral as fast, or you being able to, give yourself the grace in the moments that you really need it, and being gentle and saying, oh, I don't really want to beat myself up anymore. So it's, I don't know if you've seen A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood with Mr.
Yes.
Rogers, right? Yes. Okay. So if you remember this part where his wife is speaking to the reporter, and he says, what is it like to live with a saint? And her response was, well, when you say it like that, it makes it seem as if what he does is unattainable, but it's a practice. He does it every day. It's always a choice. And so I encourage everyone to look at that example of, it's all about just a buildup of the spiritual muscles. We feed fear a lot, but instead, if we kind of redirect that, we can see the benefits of it.
So let's go back to the choice. And this is the reason that I called you. As I was kind of perusing through social media the other day, in these strange times and challenging times, I started to feel like I was watching people grieve, and I was watching them go through their grief process. It went from a funny meme about homeschooling to, something that was a little, that had some dark edges to it. And you could kind of see where people were going in this time that we're in. And I thought, wow, I really think I'm watching people grieve, and call you and say, hey, this is what I think I'm seeing. And having benefited from, your pouring into me when I have felt not so great, I thought this would be a wonderful opportunity for Jules to maybe give some folks tools to deal with, whether it's the fear, the uncertainty, the grief that we're all dealing with, because I know you've got some wonderful tools.
Yeah, it was so, when you reached out, I was just thinking about you the day before. And, and I believe that I've come into this practice that when anyone flashes in my mind or heart, I either hold them in my heart and, try to send some loving blessings their way, or I pick up the phone if I'm able and just shoot out a text or, and say, hey, I'm thinking about you, because I feel like that is the Holy Spirit kind of showing up and saying, hey, you guys are thinking about each other. So, so it was such a surprise to hear that. I'm sorry, it wasn't a surprise to hear that you were noticing that, because I was noticing it as well. And so I was immediately like, yes, let's get together. Let's do something. So I want to say thank you for being open to serving your audience and your community in a way that is helpful, because I think a lot of people are not sure what to do. And so they put out that meme that's dark, or they say the things that are just ranting or whatever. And so if we can do what we can do from where we are to help uplift each other, that's what's helpful, So, and it's a back and forth. Like, you may text me when I'm feeling down and just remind me of who I really am. And that's happened before, so it's like, it's always a back and forth, it's always a giving and a receiving. So, as far as the shift, I've noticed that, I don't know if you've noticed this, but I've noticed that it's gone from the idea of quarantine into lockdown. And so yes, when you start to feel that your rights are being taken away from you, and you start to focus in that space of being, just that you can't do what you want to do. And then you start to get really restless with those feelings. And I think we're also dealing collectively with a lot of grief on so many different levels. And we don't like to talk about grief. That's the biggest thing. Grief is one of those kind of taboo things that even if you're experiencing it, the badge of honor is how well you can pretend that you're okay.
Right. Oh, that's yeah. This is how strong I am.
Look how strong I am. Look how well I am handling all of this mess. Do you see? Do you see how strong, And the thing is that separates us faster than anything. So the more transparent we can be with ourselves and each other, the more that the rest of us can realize, like, hey, it's okay to not be okay. This is some tough stuff we're dealing with that none of us have ever dealt with before. So that's one thing. And we also, before all this, had the culture of, we have to be the best, and we have to be so busy, and we have to be productive, and we have to overfunction our way through life. And all of that stuff has kind of gotten taken away and has left us at home looking at each other, where maybe you weren't with each other so much, and stuff is starting to come up, right? So like you're dealing with the grief of the loss of potentially life of somebody, or somebody that you care about, right? Someone that you know, or maybe someone that you care about knows, or whatever, right? So that line is like so far, it ripples out. The other thing is loss of graduations, loss of income, loss of just a normal day. There's there's the extreme levels and there's the smaller levels, but it's all equal. That's how grief works. It's all, there's no scale of it. It all, whatever you're feeling, that's what's most important to you. And whatever I'm feeling, that's what's most important to me. So when we honor that in each other, man, we are doing our best right here, And so a lot of that is new, because again, we don't like to talk about it. We don't like to admit this stuff is happening, but it is. And grief is not something that you can just put on the back burner and be like, I'll be fine. It's okay. Because it will show up at really inconvenient times. And that's just the way it works.
Right. Well, speaking of the times, this times when it shows up, this is what's been happening with me lately is middle of the night, I might get up to get a drink of water, or it might be what I refer to as the did I leave my curling iron on moment, where you sit straight up in bed thinking or remembering something that you forgot to do that day. And it's dark, it's quiet, you're vulnerable. That's when everything seems to creep in and surround me. Is there anything I can do in that moment of feeling just smothered with it that can help, bring me out of it.
Yes. And that feeling that you described is so universal. I have found that usually happens between 2 and 4 a.m. I'm not sure if you've ever noticed. Yeah. And so, spiritual wise, they say the veil is the thinnest at that time. So it's where, if you look at it from a positive perspective, it's when the Holy Spirit is really trying to connect with you. And so trying to get your attention. And sometimes you got to wake up in the middle of the night. So what I have found to be really helpful at not only that 2 to 4 window, like the enlightenment hour, if you will, or any time of the day, any time that hits you, if you can allow yourself to write it out. Because here's what I need all of us to understand about grief is that it's not something that it's not as simple as sadness. Like I feel sad and then it's over in a few days. Grief is the embodiment of change. So we are grieving something that is now different and we don't understand. And then it's like, well, what is the new going to be? And I don't know. And then you have that anticipation of it. So there's a lot of feelings, right? So if you allow yourself to start, let's say a journal prompt with the truth of how I'm feeling right now. And you just let yourself flow with it, not to share it, not to blog it, not to, criticize your grammar or anything like that, but just to let it out. And what happens is if you can give yourself, maybe 20 minutes just to get it all out, those thoughts move from outside of you into that notebook, into your phone, whatever. I enjoy writing. There's something really tactical about the process of pen to paper that it's something different. Yeah. I feel like I tap into something different, like a higher wisdom. And I just get it out. And again, it doesn't even matter if it makes any sense. You're just allowing that stuff to have a place to go. So think about it like when an architect, they dream up an idea, they then have to draw up the drawings of the building, and then a building gets built, right? So there's stages of it, right? There's a process to it. And so when we take it from here in our minds and feeling it and we're upset or whatever have you, and we give it somewhere to go, it gives that emotion some motion so it can leave you and not sit within you and fester. So the best thing I will always recommend is just trying to allow yourself to journal it. And if you're afraid of somebody reading it, then you can trash it later. You can burn it up. It doesn't matter because it's not going anywhere other than outside of you. And that's that's the goal of it, for anybody who feels like, well, I'm not a writer. I don't really dig that. I'm not into that. That's fine. But again, it needs to go somewhere. So maybe tuning into a therapist, like allowing yourself to have some type of talk therapy, even a wise friend that you feel comfortable, that you can share your heart with, and not everybody gets the privilege of hearing your heart, and that's the truth. You have to be aware that not everybody can handle it, and that's okay. But you still need to you still got to get it out of you, know? So that's the biggest tip is write it out. And it's the truth of how I'm feeling right now.
The truth of how I'm feeling right now. That's a good one. Okay, so let me kind of segue into, you were talking earlier about your spiritual muscle, and I think that this might help with the grief process as well, and the uncertainty and the fear that everybody's having, or a lot of people are having right now. And that is, everybody's put so much emphasis on a morning routine. And I know that you have a morning routine, Jules. Can you tell us what Jules' morning routine looks like? And have you added anything to it during this time of uncertainty?
I can tell you so fast that my morning routine has gotten really quiet. And it's gotten really quiet, slowing everything down. And the thing is that I need more time in the morning now, because I'm allowing myself extra time to sleep in, because that's a big thing that we also are not comfortable with is allowing ourselves to rest. That's hard, and especially, again, we were so go, go, go. We got to accomplish, we got to do. And the thing is like right now we are experiencing so much, including a lot of growth. And so I want you to think about babies, right? So when babies are born, they sleep a lot, and it's because they're growing at such a fast rate. And so if you think about us, the rebirthing that's happening collectively, we're all little babies right now, and we all need extra rest. But we want to feel like, oh, I've got to be super productive during this window of time. And it's like, put all that down. Like anything other than surviving right now is gravy, is what I just read in this article. It's like, he gave the idea of traveling with children. Your goal with traveling with children is just to arrive. Like, like if somebody cries and has a breakdown or whatever, like you're like, fine, whatever, extra snacks. Okay, fine, whatever. This is temporary. Yeah. Like we got to survive. And so when you come at it from that perspective of, I need to control what I can control. Right. So the routines that I think the reason why we're hearing a lot about routines is because those little pockets are what you can control. And so for me, again, my routine is very quiet. I allow myself to sleep in later. And when I'm sleeping in, I feel more rested, and it's just because I give a lot when I'm awake. So now I'm realizing that I've got to, really rest. And going to bed earlier too is another big thing. So the sleeping side of it is huge. I always, as soon as I can, upon waking up, I go right into the stillness. And so I know a lot of people don't really understand what meditation is, but meditation is an opportunity for me to make space for the divine to speak to me, for spirit to speak to me and give me my directions for the day. And so I have made a commitment to myself right now, especially, it's like when it started, is don't try to do this without me, kind of thing, with spirit saying, like, don't even try. And so I know that is something that's crucial for my routine. So I have to give that time, and I just allow spirit to come in, and I invite it. I'm like, be with me, direct me, guide me, speak to me, let me know what I need to do. And I do some reading. So I'm working in a Course in Miracles right now. And so I'm in that.
Oh gosh, Marianne.
Yeah. So her work was based on A Course in Miracles. Yeah. So I'm deep in A Course in Miracles again. And so I do a lot of reading, and then I go into my lesson for the day, and then I take that lesson with me. And then I go and I hang out with my kids, and I soak up all their joy and all their fun, because they're nice and fresh in the mornings too. So I get all that. But that's been a big thing. So the one thing I also want to add, Jodi, is paying attention to what your natural rhythm is right now. Not trying to bring in the old routine into a new world. Instead saying like, okay, what do I need right now? Like in this morning, in this moment, what does Jules need? And sometimes I'm like, I need 10 more minutes to just lay here and do nothing. Okay. And I give myself that, or, so on and so forth. So I encourage everybody to just think about and pay attention to their natural rhythms right now. Like, and not to judge it, just to go, okay, well, there must be a reason why I need that. Another thing with babies, they also get what they need the moment that they need it, right? That's why they cry, right? So think about you, like when you're fussy, what do you need? So it's like, oh, I actually need a snack. Oh, I was
going to say, with me, it's usually chocolate. If I'm grumpy, I need chocolate.
Yeah. It's like, okay, all right, I need a little piece of chocolate right now. Okay, that's gonna make me feel better. Whatever, you know what I mean? And then you just get, but then that's not the constant that's going to get you through. This is just for that moment, and you give yourself some grace, and you keep moving. And it's always trying to find the positive way of thinking, and you always have a choice. And if you make a not so great choice, then choose again as many times as needed. We have that ability to us, and we have that available to us. So choose again.
Right.
Choose again.
Well, I know that you have a crisis kit, downloadable crisis kit on your website. And I would love it if you'd let people know how they can get to that. Because then once they get there, they're also going to find just a treasure trove of you, from your blog to your podcast. And I think that I'm going to tell you that I am torn on the last two blogs you did as far as which one is my favorite, and that was Palm Sunday and the Easter, because
Really?
they were both amazing and both beautiful and both so relevant with what we've got going on right now.
Yeah.
I mean, it
Yeah.
really did. But I'd love for you to let people know how to get, the crisis kit, and, then in turn find all your nuggets
All
of
right.
light and love there.
Yeah, so the crisis kit is a combination of a few things. So one is an article that I wrote for Paprika Southern Magazine called "Cultivating Peace in Stressful Moments." The crazy thing was that I did not write that during the current climate, but it's timely. So it's walking you through my practices of what I personally do when stress comes in, because that's the thing. It's going to happen. Like, we're going to have the up and down waves. If you want to feel like that's not going to hit you, it's going to get you twice as hard when you come out of that. So you just got to know, okay, it's here. This is how I calm my nervous system down. And when I calm my nervous system down, I can then make better decisions. So a lot of times we try to work from a reactive state. So I'm sharing how to, and I have a whole series on YouTube with videos that break down each section on how to have the awareness that you're having these feelings, or you're going through this, and then how to pull yourself out of that and get yourself back to a place where you're in alignment for peace. And so that's in the crisis kit. I also have my easy guide to meditation, and I break it down, like not only what I'm doing, but also the benefits for your body on a medical level, on a being able to reduce not only stress, obviously, but disease, and increase your immune system, and being able to work your lungs. And so right now I've seen a lot of videos around breathing.
Shallow breathing.
Yeah, right. And so what I'm encouraging is these deep breaths, because so not only is that the meditation side of it, right? Like we're making time, but we're also strengthening our lungs, which is exactly what we should be doing. So we're strengthening our minds, we're strengthening our connection with spirit and our lungs. Like, that's such a win-win. So, and even if you just do 1 minute of meditation, 1 minute of that, intentional breathing, the benefits are there. So, and again, like we talked about building those spiritual muscles, maybe you can't sit for 20 minutes yet. That's okay. 1 minute's better than no minutes. Right?
Exactly.
So,
yeah, exactly.
Building. So just because you're like, well, I wish I could, it starts with those little bitty bite sizes, like you just take a little bite and you're like, oh, I did 1 minute. Yes, that's awesome. And then, maybe you can do 2 minutes. And then before you know it, you can do more, but it's something that you have to build. So
the little victory snowball.
Absolutely. And the thing is your trust in yourself really strengthens, because you know that you want to do something positive and you're working towards it. So, baby steps are still steps. So, that's something we kind of forget a lot of times. You're like, well, if I don't have a huge return on my investment on day one, then maybe it's not worth it.
Yeah, exactly. But isn't that the truth? It's the truth in everything. And you'll appreciate it from the beauty standpoint too. How many of us buy the miracle cream, and if we don't look like the cover of a magazine in 48 hours, we're done, we're on to the next cream?
Yeah, we're like,
so I think it's the same. It's just it's that immediate gratification.
Yeah. And, great point to bring up, that immediate gratification. So what happens, like, if you're doing the stuff, like, just, we'll call it numbing. So if you're eating too much, if you're watching too much stuff, especially the news. So turn off the news. We all know that we need to stay home and we need to wash our hands. So do that. Like, we don't need to worry about all the other stuff, right? Because it just builds anxiety and makes it harder for you to tap into your faith when you're swirling in so much fear. Okay. So the thing is that when you do the eating, or you're watching, people are watching like a bunch of Tiger King. I don't even know what that's about, but I just know that that's like something funny that people are tapping into or whatever. It gives you the instant gratification. You're like, yeah, I feel good for this moment. When you're building something positive, what happens is that it's initially kind of harder, but the payoff is longer. You know what I mean? So like I immediately, I like that chocolate. It's yummy. It feels, I'm like, yay, I love this. But if I do that for like a whole year, then I'm going to have negative consequences from it. Now,
you just broke my heart. You just broke my heart.
All in moderation though. Okay. So, but now if I am going to, start meditating, back to that. So I do 1 minute. And then I'm like, okay, I just did 1 minute. I don't necessarily feel any different, but I'll just keep at it. And then the benefits of that are on the latter part of it. It comes after time. And so we just have to give ourselves, again, all the grace possible and just say, hey, we're trying something new. We're in something new. We're not going to come out of this the same that we were, because we're growing. We're going to come out of this by going through the grief and knowing that we're being changed by the grief, and being okay with that, and knowing that it's you're not alone, even though it's a lonely feeling. But again, journaling and saying the truth of how I feel right now will help you to metabolize those feelings and understand them and be able to organize them a little bit. So then you go, oh, I was feeling fear. Oh, okay. I was feeling sad because I miss my family. I can't see my grandma right now, or I'm feeling angry because all of my income is gone, and what do I do? So you can at least start to understand what you're feeling and not judge it, and just go, okay. And then there's the relief that comes from letting it go through you. So that's the big thing. So all that kind of stuff is available on the Jules Loves Me website. It's www.julesloves.me. And the blogs that you just talked about are also podcasts. So if anybody wants to hear, so I have been showing up on Sundays and doing the podcast live. And so that's been taking place within the private Facebook group and through Zoom calls. And so we've been recording it and sharing it. And it's amazing because it's like I kind of have an idea of what I'm going to talk about, but not really. And then I go in and I'm just open, and what comes out is exactly what needs to come out, kind of thing. So
exactly. Oh my gosh. The resources on your website are amazing, and your podcasts are wonderful, and your blogs are wonderful. And people can even, take a peek at, some of your latest makeup work on your website too, which I always
it's so funny. I'm like, I hope I remember how to do makeup after all this.
Oh girl, come on. Come on.
But yeah, it's
oh my gosh, I just looked up at the time. I have had you on here so long.
Have you?
I've had you on here, girl.
Well, that's what happens with friends
all day. But I'm thinking, I don't want to sound selfish, but I think I just got a free hour and a half of therapy.
Hey, you know what? And that's what it is. It's all about when we connect with each other, we feel better. When you you don't have to keep the front up of no, everything's fine. Everything's fine. Everything's fine. It's no, it's not fine. It's really freaking bizarre and weird. And that's okay to talk about. Or the other thing is feeling joy. It's okay to feel joy. It's like the thing that happens with grief is there's this mourning that happens, and you're like, well, we have to wear black and we can't laugh and we can't. And it's like, you know what? When you post something funny, it makes me laugh. When I post something funny, it gives somebody permission for them to laugh, and so on and so forth. And so that's the thing.
Yeah, so funny. We had a call actually with a Navy SEAL the other day. Our office, our national office did. Brilliant man, but it was interesting because he said panic is contagious, but so is calm.
Yes. Yes. And one thing I love that the Navy SEALs teach is that they don't rise to fear, right? They don't rise and face the fear. What they do is they dig down into their training to face the fear. And so that's what it is. And so if you don't have a practice right now, it's a great time to start one and be very gentle with yourself. You know, it's all like when you get up, make your bed. That's one way that you can.
Oh, he brought that up too. That was one of the things he brought up. Yeah.
I don't care if I'm making my bed before I'm about to get into it to go.
You make it up at some point.
I make it up because I committed to myself that I always would. And that, because when I realize that when I see my bed unmade, it bothers me. It makes me feel it makes me feel like there's a level of chaos that I can't even control because my bed is unmade. And I was like, oh, fix that real quick. Just pull the covers up, you know, it's fine. And then you're like, I feel like organized and put together. And that's all again, practicing good stuff, you know, tuning into good habits.
Thank you so much again. And I'm sorry that Facebook kept kicking us off, but
all right.
This is some good stuff. So I'm anxious for Josh to get this and
he will
magic.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's like, hey, we in every capacity, we're giving ourselves grace, right? And the other side of it is that when curveballs continue to come our way and unexpected things happen, like your Facebook Live doesn't work, well, guess what? You figure it out and you go with what does work, and then you keep moving. So we didn't rob anybody of any goodness. And thank you for following your intuition on doing this and inviting me to collaborate with you. I mean, what an honor. It's thank you.
I love you. I miss you.
I miss you too. I can't wait for y'all to come to the Hopeful House and see all this.
Thank you so much. I mean, you are so beautiful inside and out. And thank you for the nuggets of light and love. And I know they're going to help people because that's just who you are and that's just what you do. And I love you for it. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jodi. And how can your folks find you, or how can my folks find you?
Well, you know, I mean, I've got my Facebook page, and my website is thejodiclarkrealtor.com. And, you know, we're doing things a little differently, but we're still doing them. So,
all right. And Jodi with an I.
Yes. Jodi with an I.
All right. Thanks, Jodi.
Okay. Thank you, babe. All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.